Good evening and welcome to Wednesday Night Wellness Live. I'm Dr. Andrew Merrill here at Nightlight Chiropractic, and this is our video. This is what we do every single Wednesday night for you, the viewer, maybe our patient, maybe our Facebook friend, so that we can bring you the most up-to-date information on a lot of the common answers and questions that we get from patients throughout the week, right? So we see somewhere between 150 and 200 patients every single week here, and we answer the same questions again and again and again and again. And so what I've done is I've distilled them down into these videos to give you all of these common answers to these common topics so that you don't have to go hunting around for them, so that you don't have to worry about asking your doctor or your chiropractor about them somewhere later on in the week or later on in your life. So this evening, what I got for you is this great video about staying hydrated. Right? And so if you tune out right now, I'll completely understand, because staying hydrated is something that everyone tells you to do, right? Like your doctor tells you to do it, your dentist probably tells you to do it, your trainer tells you to do it, everybody tells you to do it, your staff, the people that you work with probably tell you to do it. And we all try and do it, we just maybe sometimes fall short. But why is it so important, right? So why do we continue to harp on this hydration issue, and where does it end, and why are we talking about it here this evening, right? So I think everyone by this point has heard somewhere along the line that we are made up of a lot of water, right? By mass, we're over 50% water, depending on which tissues we're talking about. It's a lot more than that. Oh, you're not getting sound? Oh no, did I probably stepped on my cord here? No, I'm going to do this. You're not getting sound, and I bet you're getting sound from me right now here, now that I've given up on my little microphone that doesn't work half the time for me anyways. I might just give up. I need to get a new microphone for these things. If you guys are going to be watching me, I'm going to go ahead and invest in myself and in you. So anyways, we're 50% mass, 50% water by mass, and a lot more depending on which tissues you're talking about. And for the sake of the chiropractor, what we're talking about is your back, right? So how does back pain and hydration go together here? And it's because of your discs, right? Your discs are made up of water. Somewhere between 75 and 90% of your disc is made up of water here. And if you're looking at the disc, when we're talking about all that water, see this yellow part here? So this is one vertebrae, another vertebrae, and then the disc. And that part that's yellow in the middle there, that's all water. That's called nucleus pulposus. It's filled up with water, and it actually makes your disc act like a water balloon, right? And so here's the thing about your body. When you're a little bit dehydrated, what your body is going to do is it's going to steal water from places where it stores water to make sure that other things have water, right? So nobody realizes that water is so critical to how your body functions. Your brain is using water, a lot of water. Your digestion is using a ton of water. Oh, there's no sound. Oh, I don't know what's going on. I wonder what's going on here. Hopefully this is working later for sound for some folks. Anyways, so this is all filled up with water, and what we want to do is make sure that we have so much water in our bodies that your body's not stealing water from this, because it's a shock absorber, right? This shock absorber is making sure that every time you take a step, every time you jump, every time you're walking around or going from sitting to standing, that this shock absorber is preventing injury to your spine, right? And so, hey everybody, I'm glad that some of y'all have sound out there. I don't know what's going on. I'm like the world's worst technician here. Anyways, so we want to make sure that we have plenty of water in our discs so that it still acts as a great shock absorber. Also the muscles, right? So the muscles actually store up to 90% of the muscle is storing water for your body, so that what happens is your body has this extra store, but also so the muscles can move, right? Without water, your muscles would actually get stuck in this calcium locked up state, and then they don't move. And a lot of times when patients come in, they're like, oh, I think I have an issue. Second worst technician. I think I have this issue where my muscles are cramping, and it's got to be because I don't eat enough bananas, or I don't get enough magnesium, or whatever it is. And that's usually my second guess, right? So first guess is almost always that you're a little bit dehydrated, especially here in Florida, and then your muscles are giving up all their water to these other, digestive process and these other important things that your body needs to do. And so your body is hoping that you're going to replenish those water stores into the muscles so that you can go on doing what you have to do, right? So it's based on your environment where your body is going to push the water. Is it going to push the water to your digestive system and your brain, because those are critical and those can never stop working? Or is it going to make sure that those still are working and you have plenty of water in the discs of your spine and the muscles of your spine, so you don't end up getting back pain, right? So when you lose that water, when your body uses up all this water and it starts to steal water, it's almost like losing the insoles from your shoes, right? Have you ever taken the insoles out of your shoes? Maybe they're wet or something, and then you're walking around in shoes that don't have insoles, and it feels so terrible, right? It feels like your foot is just like smacking the concrete every time you're walking. And the same thing is happening in your spine when all that water is gone from those discs. So here's another aside from that, and this is kind of interesting to me, is that you know that you can be up to a ½ inch shorter in the evening than you were in the morning? Did you know that? Like I tell everyone, if you're trying to be taller in that driver's license picture, or when they measure you to get your driver's license, you need to go in the morning because you're actually going to be a little bit taller than you are in the evening. And that also has to do with how much gravity and you standing is going to squish all the water out of those discs. So these things are designed to gain and lose water, and you need to make sure that you're staying hydrated so that it keeps all the water in there. So how am I going to do that? Wait, Dr. Merrill, how do I stay hydrated? What does that take? What are we talking about here? And I think we've all heard by this point that you're supposed to drink, I think it's 8 ounce glasses of water. Is that the number? Did anyone else hear 8 ounce glasses of water somewhere along the line? And it turns out that that's kind of not a bad place to start, but it's not really the whole picture. And I want to kind of dispel some of those myths right now. The typical starting point that I have for patients these days is half your body weight in ounces, right? So about 190 pounds means 95 ounces of water per day. But we're gonna get some caveats to that, right? So that sounds kind of daunting because if you think about a gallon of water is 128 ounces, what we're talking about is 95 ounces is most of a gallon of water every day. That sounds really hard on top of like your lifestyle or whatever to drink all that water. How are we going to accomplish that? So we got to talk about what counts as water and what doesn't count as water. So the 3 things that I typically go back to when talking about water is obviously water, but then unsweet tea counts as water 1 for 1. And then black coffee without creamer or sugar counts as water 1 for 1. Now, every time I say this, I get pushback. No, Dr. Merrill, coffee's a diuretic. I know, see, people are already saying it. It's a diuretic. It doesn't count 1 for 1. It does count 1 for 1. There's new research out. Actually, it's not even new anymore. It's probably like 6 or 7 years old. But it was actually out of a symposium done by personal trainers. Fantastic research, well-controlled research, showing that coffee is just as good as water when it comes to staying hydrated. Now, keep in mind, if you go back to watch the video that we did a couple weeks ago about coffee, I do not recommend that you drink half your body weight in coffee every day. That's a really, really bad idea. That's going to give you some problems. Same thing with unsweet tea. Even though it doesn't have sugar in it, what's going to end up happening is you're going to end up with some kidney problems from both of those, and who knows what other problems if you drink 95 ounces of coffee per day. Not recommended, but those count, right? So if you drink 1 unsweet tea and 1 cup of coffee, or 2 or 3, depending on who you are, that still counts. So 1 for 1. So if I drink my 1 unsweet iced tea and my 2 coffees, basically I'm maybe halfway done or almost a third of the way done with how much water I need for the day, right? So count that in there. Here's what doesn't count, right? Milk doesn't count. First of all, you shouldn't be drinking that much milk ever. People, seriously, get off this milk idea. Juice doesn't count, right? So fruit juice actually does hydrate you pretty well, except that it has fructose in it, which is going to tax your liver a little bit, which is going to end up using a bunch of water. So it doesn't really count 1 for 1. It counts in there, but the high amount of sugar and the high amount of fructose, particularly in fruit juice, makes it so that I would not count that 1 for 1 as water. Same thing with soda, right? So fruit juice and soda, your body kind of looks at them a little bit the same way. That's an argument for a different time, but I would not count that as water directly, right? So fruit juice, soda, milk do not count as water if you're looking at it that way. Also, alcohol, right? Red wine, beer, liquor do not count as water. In fact, they put you backwards. So for every one of those you drink, you need to drink an extra glass of water to make up for the dehydrating effects of those. Yes, vino, vodka, all the same, counts negative towards water. You need to drink an extra glass of water to make up for that. Here's the other thing. This is the starting line, right? This is what we need, absolute bare bones minimum, to make sure that your muscles aren't having cramping, that your spinal discs aren't degenerating, that you're not falling apart. Red Bull is something that nobody should be consuming right now. It's really bad for you, especially if you mix with alcohol. There's lots of research out there that shows that it can end up causing some heart arrhythmias. So Red Bull should not be even on the discussion table here, and it's not. What was I talking about here? No, I totally forgot where I was going. Oh, these are the bare bones minimum. So if you want to make sure that your brain is working, that your muscles aren't cramping, that your spinal discs aren't degenerating, you want to make sure that you are drinking at least this much water. Now, if you're in Florida here, like myself, and it's February 19th and it's 90 degrees outside, you need more water. If you're outside and you're sweating, you need to increase that amount of water. And after you have lost a ton of water, you probably need to add some Gatorade. Again, I would not get a bunch of your water from Gatorade because it has a ton of calories. So if you're going to be adding Gatorade in, that's fine to add it in if you've been sweating a lot or exercising a lot, but it should not count 1 for 1 as water. It's not the same. It will hydrate you, but it will end up being too many calories, too much salt. It's not the best replacement 1 for 1 as water. So a little bit of Gatorade, okay. A lot of Gatorade starts to not be the best thing for you. Stick to water if you're going to be outside a lot. Same thing with lots of profuse exercise. You need to make sure that you're drinking lots and lots of water to make up for that exercise. How much? Well, that's tough, right? So it depends on who you are and what you're doing to really figure out how much water you need to make up for throughout your day. All right. So here's a couple of tips or tricks. My favorite tips and tricks to make sure that you're getting hydrated. First, make sure that you're counting all of those different drinks that you're getting. Right. Don't go overboard with it. If you're already drinking 2 or 3 cups of coffee a day, I wouldn't change that. Count that in and figure out how much is left over to get your amount of ounces that you need to stay hydrated. So my favorite technique is to use a very big glass. Right. So if you start with a little 8-ounce paper cup, it's going to take you forever to drink 95 ounces, right? It's going to take you a lot. You're going to try and keep up with it, but you've got better things to do, so you're going to forget about it, and then you're never going to get your water goals. So if you start with a larger container, think like double big gulp size, 32 ounces, whatever, that's going to be great because all you need is 3 of those, right? So if you start off with 1 of those, fill it up 2 more times, you're good. So the bigger the container, the better. And then making sure that it's front and center with you all day is also imperative. So something that you can bring with you is obviously going to be better than something that you don't want to leave your kitchen. Like we have a lot of things that my wife says I'm not allowed to take with me because then maybe it doesn't come back and who knows. So it's making sure that you can take it with you is ultra important as well. So what I want from this week, so there's been a few people watching. There's going to be a few people throughout the week that watch this once it gets posted back up. I'm looking for your best tips and tricks, right? So when I look at the research, and it's dry, man, the stuff that I have to read to come up with these videos is like incredibly dry for me, but it's important information that you guys have. So instead of talking about like how the liver works and why you shouldn't maybe be getting so much fruit juice, why don't you tell me your best tips and tricks to drink a little bit more water? Right? Everyone's got their own little niche. Everyone's got their own little, here's what I do. So I want to see in the comments here, if you've watched this video, if you made it to this part and you hear me asking this, jump into the comment section for me and let me know what your favorite tip or trick is for staying hydrated and getting some extra water into you throughout the day. I got one last thing that I know that I forgot to talk about here through the middle of this, and that's extra fruits and vegetables. So most fruits and vegetables, whole fruits, fresh vegetables, can also count 1 for 1 as water, depending on how you're going to mix up weight to the weight ratio of those. So like leafy spinach, when you cook it down, it gets real small and it's a ton of water. Most fruits have a ton of water in them. They count 1 for 1 as water. So if you're doing a good job eating all of your fresh produce throughout the week, that also should count into how much water you're getting as well. Again, if you have tips or tricks, please in the comment section, let me know what those tips and tricks are. Other viewers might want to see them as well, but I personally want to see your best tips and tricks. And then that's all I have for this evening. So if you ever want more information from us, you can go to www.nightlightchiropractic.com and you can sign up for our newsletter on the Contact Us page there. You can also find me at drandrewmerrillblog.com. Fantastic information, just directly for you, right? I'm not asking for anything. We're not pitching anything. I'm not selling anything. Just trying to get you great information that you need. Other than that, have a great rest of your week and a wonderful weekend. I will see you next week for another Wednesday Night Wellness Live. Good night.